You're watching Local News 8 at 5. Local people, local news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. New questions swirl around the Secret Service after a recent incident in Washington. That story coming up, plus what Idaho State Senator Mike Crapo has to say about that scandal. But first, a few counties in the Lost River Valley are trying to bring more visitors in. Local News 8's Bree Clark spoke to commissioners today about that. So, Bree, what are their plans?
Well, Jay, they say a national park would make a big economic difference. Officials have their eyes on Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve. Commissioners say a park would increase tourist flow through nearby towns, but first, counties have to get the community and politicians on board.
We're starting with the grassroots educational effort so that we can let people know what we're doing, why we're doing, and how it will affect them.
And monument officials want to make it clear that they are not lobbying for the change. This is not a position on their part. This is coming from surrounding communities and those city and county leaders. Live here in the studio, I'm Bree Clark.
Thank you, Bree. And tonight at 6, we'll hear more from the commissioners and monument officials on why they say Craters needs to be a national park. Well, time now to check in with First Alert forecaster Steve Cannon with a look at your weather. And Steve, you couldn't have a nicer day than today, could you?
You couldn't have ordered this any better, even if you had put in an order. This is the Blackfoot webcam with plenty of blue sky. We'll go south or north to Idaho Falls. I want you to notice Pinecrest and all the folks that are out there playing golf this afternoon. Also notice the fair sky and the warm temperature, 63 degrees with a light breeze and fair skies. You have to look hard to find shower activity. It's down in the southern and central Rockies, but in our area, no, not so much. Now, just because you can't see any doesn't mean there isn't any coming. But tonight, don't worry about it. There's not much cloud cover, not much of a breeze. Tomorrow, however, things will change. We'll have that forecast coming up.
Now at 5, the scandal continues. Members of Congress turn an eye on the Secret Service, which is under investigation again. Newly appointed Secret Service Director Joe Clancy now faces a serious challenge.
I think that there certainly is some concern, especially on the heels of a number of other incidents that have occurred over the last couple of years.
And now to the latest in a series of embarrassments for the Secret Service. 2 officers driving onto the White House grounds, disrupting a crime scene after allegedly drinking. As the fallout continues from this incident and others, larger questions are being raised. ABC's Susan Salmi reports.
The latest missteps at the Secret Service, allegations that 2 agents were driving drunk around the White House and that the agency's director wasn't informed for days, are raising fresh questions about the Secret Service's fitness for its primary role of protecting the president.
This organization has to be the very, very best in the world. We are protecting the most powerful person in the world.
ABC News has learned that 2 agents were headed back to the White House March 4th after reportedly drinking at a retirement party for a colleague. Then around 11:30 p.m., they slowly drove their unmarked car through crime scene tape surrounding a suspicious package that was being investigated. Their car then bumping a barrier near the southeast entrance. Uniformed officers at the White House reportedly wanted to give a sobriety test to the agents involved, one a senior supervisor and the other Mark Connolly, the second-ranking agent on the president's detail. But there was no test or arrest. A supervisor reportedly told the uniformed officers to let the agents go.
It's a culture of covering up, of laxness, of corner cutting, and it's led to one scandal really after another.
This incident follows a series of failures, including the time last fall when a man with a knife jumped the fence and made it deep into the White House before being apprehended. That fence jumper pleaded guilty today in court. His arrest led to the resignation of the previous Secret Service director. Susan Salmi, ABC News, Washington.
Idaho Senator Mike Crapo had this to say about the scandal.
That they need to kind of up their game. And I think that America needs to expect more of them. I know their leadership recognizes that, and I'm hopeful that we will see a renewed focus at the Secret Service on making sure that they are at the top of their game.
Senator Crapo was in eastern Idaho today. While we're on the topic of political scandals, Local News 8 asked the senator about that letter to Iran about nuclear negotiations with the U.S. It's basically a warning to Iranian leaders from Congress. GOP senators, including Crapo, signed the letter saying if Iran agrees to a nuclear treaty with the Obama administration, it has to be approved by the 2/3 of the Senate. It also warns the next president can always revoke that treaty. The letter has been getting a lot of heat. Crapo says he was surprised by the reaction, saying this is part of Congress's job.
We are very concerned that the president is moving dangerously close to entering an agreement with an enemy of ours that will essentially allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And, you know, the president says that he's not doing so, but the fact is that we are very concerned that what he appears to be doing is exactly that. And we were making it very clear that we as Congress will not stand for that.
Crapo says Congress believes the president should handle this as a treaty and let Congress ratify it. Crapo says Congress does have a meaningful role in foreign policy. The man accused of shooting and killing his girlfriend, Anna Ray Ponce, New Year's Day, was not in court today. Kevin McWilliams' preliminary hearing was waived this afternoon. The 25-year-old is facing charges of aggravated assault with an enhancement of association with a criminal gang, involuntary manslaughter with a deadly weapon enhancement, and unlawful possession of a firearm with a deadly weapon. No word yet on when he will be back in court. Two former governors are threatening to sue the U.S. government. Former Idaho governors Phil Batt and Cecil Landris filed a notice last week of their intent to sue the Department of Energy over nuclear fuel rods being brought to Idaho. Two shipments at about 100 pounds each are scheduled to arrive here for research. One shipment in June and the other in December. Batt and Andrus say this would violate the 1995 agreement to remove and keep nuclear waste out of Idaho. We asked the director of the INL, John Grossenbacher, why he thinks this does not go against that agreement.
This is research material. It's not fuel that's being dumped or disposed of here. And I think that was their intent, dump and disposal.
Grossenbacher says the agreement has allowance provisions for this type of material, and this is just a very small amount. He went on to say it's as safe, or the workers at the lab wouldn't be doing the research. He says this research would put Idaho at the forefront in the nuclear industry and is vital to the future of nuclear energy. Opponents argue over concerns for the environment and specifically the Snake River Plain aquifer. In your legislative watch now, Idaho lawmakers are requesting the federal government to ensure that all genetically modified food labels are voluntary. The Senate passed the non-binding resolution by voice today earlier. Republican Senator Jim Rice from Caldwell told lawmakers that a patchwork of state labeling laws would be too complex for manufacturers and could raise food prices. Rice says the Food and Drug Administration should make the rules standard across the country. The House has already passed the request 41-24 last week. Although the rest of this school year is taken care of, the future is still uncertain for internet in Idaho schools. Jake Melder tells us state agencies and lawmakers are looking to avoid another internet catastrophe. That's tonight's Hot Topic.
Early proposals outline a form of government oversight that would manage a statewide network. Despite the early success of districts negotiating their own contracts, lawmakers see a vulnerability with giving them a blank check.
There's a concern that maybe districts will, because it's not their money now, it's the state paying for it, that they will obtain broadband that they don't really need.
Proponents also say despite oversight issues, the IEN had benefits being a large-scale program.
So we saw there were communities that were able to expand services for everybody in the community, both at homes, in businesses, and in libraries, thanks to the state running fiber in to support the schools.
But lessons have been learned, both in proper oversight and negotiating contracts on an individual basis. So the proposal restricts the state from using just one ISP.
If you create a new network and you don't put the service provider in charge of it or give the service provider that kind of access, you can empower the state to negotiate best price.
Still, concern over another statewide network flows heavy in the State House, and other plans are being discussed behind closed doors.
Announced today, the two vendors for Idaho's failed broadband program are seeking more than $6 million in unpaid bills from the time its contract with the state was under legal scrutiny. Head to our Facebook page to weigh in on tonight's Hot Topic story. Continuing your legislative watch now, Idaho parents of epileptic children appear to be slowly swaying the Idaho legislature to allow the use of cannabis oil to treat seizure disorders. The Senate State Affairs Committee voted 5-4 today to advance legislation that would provide a defense for people who are arrested for using marijuana extract. However, the measure is facing opposition from the governor's office. The governor's office of drug policy has drafted an alternative proposal. However, Chairman Kirk McKenzie of Nampa says that bill will not be introduced this year. The bill to protect religious rights and the rights of Utah's LGBT residents is now law. Governor Gary Herbert signed the bill yesterday during a public ceremony at the state capitol. The legislation earned an endorsement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as well as the approval of Equality Utah, an LGBT rights group. The compromise between the two groups makes it illegal to discriminate against people based on sexual orientation or gender identity in the areas of housing and employment, but it provides exemptions for religious organizations such as schools and hospitals. New at 5, sales and lodging tax collections in Teton County are well ahead of budget, with just 1 quarter remaining until the fiscal year ends in June. More than $4 million has been collected from the lodging tax thus far in the county, where tourism is the main driver of the local economy. That's an 18% jump over projections. Sales tax revenue is nearly 13% ahead of budget. However, the most recent collection total includes kind of an anomaly. Teton County Treasurer Donna Bowers says Jackson and the county received back taxes this month from online travel companies that had to make lodging tax payments because of a recent Wyoming Supreme Court decision. Wyoming students are taking some tests this month that are in line with Common Core. A state education official says the PAWS testing of about 49,000 kids is going well. PAWS stands for Proficiency Assessment of Wyoming Students, which the state started to use in 2012. It's part of the Cowboy State's 3-year transition to Common Core. Also at 5, this is new, quinoa. It's considered a superfood because, kind of like soy, it has all the proteins and amino acids. And now local farmers are trying to grow it, which could mean big things for our area. Currently, quinoa is mostly farmed in South America, so getting it shipped here makes it more expensive, anywhere between $3, $4, or $8 a pound. But local experts are saying you may pay a high price, but it's for a high quality.
It's a little bit pricier than some of the other grains or grain substitutes, so I think it would be fantastic if it was grown locally, and then maybe people in this area would use it more.
And that would make dietitians happy. We'll have more on this tonight at 6, including the idea of quinoa being gluten-free and why some dietitians are disagreeing on whether gluten-free is a good thing or a bad thing. March Madness is a tradition, and in recent years, so is finishing up the Final Four floor in Idaho Falls. Michigan-based Connor Sports makes the floor and then sends it to IF for finishing work. Now, this is video from the project last year, the same project. Next, that floor goes on tour. This year it stops in Shelley, then Salt Lake, before heading to the Midwest. Coming up, the victims of the military Black Hawk helicopter in Florida have been identified. And the latest as police continue to search for the person responsible for shooting 2 Ferguson, Missouri police officers. We'll be right back.
Daryl Honus, Jade Hildebrandt, and First Alert Chief Meteorologist Michael Coates. You're watching Local News 8 at 5. Local people, local news.